Meryl and Joe, I'm delighted to do another partnership event with Senior Service Alliance. For those in the audience that might not be familiar with Senior Service Alliance, tell us a little bit about who the two of you are and what the organization does.
Steve, we're very similar to your organization. We're a feel-good group. We want to interact with people who have a passion for working with the senior community, making sure that they get the best of care and the best of attention for the things that they need. And we have no requirements, just like you. We want people to attend. We want people to interact with others if they want to, because you never know what your client is going to want, and you're going to have that perfect person to help them out. And that's just like how we reach out to you. We're perfect.
It's a
I
combination.
love it.
It's a combination of education and networking to benefit all people that are interested in caring for the senior community.
I love it. And what a great topic that we've got today in talking about caring for the senior community, because fraud and crimes committed against older adults are on the rise, and the loneliness and isolation amongst that population really can be a contributing factor. And we're delighted today to have Andre Lingham, who is the founder and president of the Center for Elder Justice and Education, who's going to share with us some insights, tips, and suggestions on identity theft. And I just want to remind folks in the audience, we love to make this interactive. So at any point in the discussion, if you've got a question, type it in. But Andre, before we dive in, I know you've got a PowerPoint and a lot of information to share. Tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to your current career path.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me. Also, thanks to Meryl for recommending me. I served over 30 years with the Howard County Police Department in Maryland. So while I was there, I was the senior citizen liaison for about 5 years. So that's how I kind of got in the education, elder abuse awareness and education field. Once I completed my 30 years, I retired to focus specifically on elder abuse awareness and education. So that prompted me to start my nonprofit. And pretty much that's what I do. I get out in the field, and I love meeting seniors in their communities, face-to-face, one-on-one, because a lot of agencies sort of do what I do, but a lot of it's digital online. I think I've found the best way to connect with seniors is in person. So that's kind of my story. So I'm available to travel. So if someone's in California and wants me to come out and speak, I'll come out. So
man, what a great chapter in your career. And I had no idea. That's hats off to you for this initiative. And
thank you.
And I know that a lot of the folks in the audience are providers that are looking for speakers. Folks, Andre could be a great resource for the residents of your building or your community. So we'll make sure to drop the website for the Elder Justice and Education Center in the chat here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, should we, Meryl and Joe, should we drop behind the curtain and let Andre take the stage?
I'd say
absolutely.
That's a good idea. Let's get this show on the
Right.
road.
All right, Andre. So if you want to share your screen there, looks good to me. Just shout out if you need us, and folks, keep the questions coming in.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. So we're going to get started, and I named my presentation The Illusion of Privacy, because we really think that a lot of our information is private, and it's not out in the open for anyone to get. And as we go through the presentation, I'll touch on different ways that our information is out there. Unfortunately, I was a victim of identity theft. And the interesting part is I was given a presentation on identity theft, and it was a short break. And I checked my email, and I got an email that my credit card was being used in a Walmart about 20 miles from where I was giving the presentation. So we're not immune to being victimized. The only thing we can do is try to minimize what happens to us. So we'll go ahead and get started. So what is identity theft? Identity theft occurs when someone uses your information for personal gain, to commit crimes, different ways like that. So we're going to look at some ID theft statistics. Estimated 15 million Americans had their ID stolen in 2021. However, most cases, unfortunately, are never reported. And I definitely recommend that you report whether a credit card was compromised, someone opening new credit in your information, in your name. So that way there's a track record. The FTC reported 60 to 69 age group lost the most in fraud-induced expenses. So the older you are, unfortunately, the more chances you have of being victimized and losing money. Unfortunately, 9 in 10 ID theft victims had no idea how their information was compromised. And actually that, I've fallen at 9 in 10 because I have no idea how they got my credit card information and did a duplicate credit card. Unfortunately, people active on social media are more likely to have their personal information stolen. If you're on Facebook, typically the first thing you get when you wake up in the morning is whose birthday it is for that day. So now if a person's profile is open, we know that what their birth date is, their, typically the area they live in, and their name. My name is uncommon. I think there's only one Andre Lingham in the United States, and I think you guys could probably find out where I live in about 15 or 20 seconds. So you really got to be careful with having your information out there. Fewer than 1 in 10 reported the incident to police, and I really stress report if you're victimized. So what information do they want? These are the big 4: your name, address, social security number, and birth date. Also driver's license information, bank account details, credit card information. But if they can get the top 4, they can compromise your information. What can they do with it? Pretty much anything that you do with it. And mostly what they do is open fraudulent credit cards in your name. Apply for credit cards, apply for utilities, phone services, government benefits. So pretty much anything that you can do with your information, they can do with it. Here's a video of a young lady, I believe it was in California, that had her information compromised, and sort of tells her story and how it really victimized and traumatized her life.
Every time Stancy Nesby looks in the rearview mirror, she can't help but wonder if she's about to be pulled over.
Everybody needs to put themselves in my shoes and know that this could happen to them.
A 30-year-old single mom with 4 kids who holds 2 jobs working as a nurse's assistant, life was hard enough before her problems with police.
It's made it really hard for me to smile and be the normal person that I felt like I was at first.
It started 4 years ago when Stancy was pulled over for speeding in the Bay Area. She admitted going too fast, but couldn't understand why she was being arrested.
I ended up going to jail that day. They didn't believe anything I was saying.
It turned out Stancy had a warrant for her arrest. The police databases showed she'd been busted for cocaine possession here in San Francisco's seedy Tenderloin district back in 1999, but that she never showed up for court appearances. Stancy had to spend 3 days in jail. The problem, she was innocent. Police later confirmed it when her fingerprints didn't match the real suspect who had used Stancy's name.
I've had nightmares about this.
She says police told her they'd fix the problem, but 2 months later, Stancy was arrested again. this time at her home in Berkeley. Once again, she says when the officers discovered the error, they told her they'd help her clear her name. But 3 months later, Stancy was arrested again in yet another jurisdiction. And it didn't end there. From 2002 to 2004, Stancy was arrested or detained 7 times by 5 police departments. In one instance, hauled off right in front of her children.
The kids were crying. And basically they ended up, throwing me on the ground and sticking their knees in my back.
Every time, she says authorities promised to fix the problem, but didn't.
Maybe it's because I'm not a rich person that they feel like I'm nobody. But I am somebody and I have feelings, and I don't think that they should run people's.
So unfortunately, with that situation, it took them several years to get it resolved. She ended up suing the police departments and the state's attorney's office. But, I can't imagine getting arrested multiple times and spending time in jail for something that, obviously that she didn't do. And it all boiled down to her ID was compromised. Typically what happens is when you're arrested for the first time, that name that you provide them sticks with you. Luckily, what saved her are the fingerprints and that they matched up with the suspect and didn't match up with her. How do they get your personal information? Pretty simple. Stealing mail is kind of common, especially in older neighborhoods. We've had situations where they follow the mail person, and as they deposit mail into the mailbox, they'll go right behind them and pick it up. We see this a lot, like I said, in older communities where a lot of seniors still get their bills and different things like that, correspondence by mail. Stealing from your purse. Always recommend minimize what you have in your wallet and in your purse. If you're just going out for, regular shopping, or, you're only going to use one credit card, there's no need to have 2, 3, 4, 5 credit cards. Your Social Security card in your wallet, just in case it gets stolen, then the thieves have access to it. Breaking into your car, unfortunately. We've had situations where near lakes or different places where people get out and exercise, and they'll leave their wallet and purse in the car, and thieves will see that, and they'll unfortunately break in and steal their information. Here's a couple videos of sort of things we do day to day, and it'll show you how easy it is to steal, whether you're in a grocery store, gas station, restaurant. You look to the left, the lady in orange just grabbed the victim's purse that quick, and the victim had no idea. So in this video is what we call sliders. And typically what happens when, and I saw it with my wife, we would go get gas, she would grab her purse, take the wallet out, grab her debit or credit card, and then put the purse on the passenger seat. And typically what they'll do is they'll pull up beside the car, open the door with you right there, and grab the purse. And as you see in this video, the victim has no idea that they have entered her car and taken her purse. So he's opening the door. Still, the victim has no idea. He has the purse or wallet. He's in the car, and she's still pumping gas, has no idea. Here's a video of a restaurant. Our 2 suspects walk in, and you'll see them sit down. So you see the person on the chair right behind the suspect. And what she'll do is throw a coat or a sweater over it. Now the victims are actually facing them. She reaches in, grabs a wallet. They get up and walk away, and the victim has no idea that her information was stolen. Some of the other ways that they get your information, spyware hacking. If they put spyware on your computer, pretty much everything that you do, they will get a record of. So if you go into bank accounts, Facebook accounts, any kind of accounts where you need a password, they will have access to that information. A lot of times they will, you'll see a pop-up on your computer wanting you to click on an ad or, you know, whatever they decide to put there. But they want you to click on it. Once you click on it, it can automatically attach spyware to your computer. So I recommend any kind of pop-up ads or anything where they're requesting you click on it or go to another site, just ignore it and X out of it. This is what's called phishing. What they'll do is send an email that looks like it's from a legitimate company. But what they'll want you to do is put your personal logon information. So in this case, it looks like it's coming from PayPal. And what they'll want you to do is get your ID verified, which means you need to put your password and logon credentials on their website. And once they get that, you've been compromised. PayPal or no other entity, legal entity, will require you or request that you put your logon information in a website specifically where they send you an email. Another way you can definitely tell it's a bogus email, if you look at where it's from, it's paypal.co.uk. So again, any email requesting that you update information or put your logon credentials in there, I'm pretty sure it's 100% a scam. This is a phishing email. Looks like it comes from the IRS. And what basically they're saying, they owe you $319, but they need to confirm your information. Again, they'll want your name, social security number, address, pretty much all information that you typically give when you file your taxes. If you look at where it's from, it's IRS online, ahr@irxt.com. Again, if you're owed money by the IRS, they'll typically either send it directly to your bank account, send you a check, but they will not send you an email requesting that you put all your banking information and personal information to get the funds back. Social networks and blogs, just be careful of, again, what you put on social networks. And make sure if you have a Facebook page or Twitter that it's closed to public access. I see a lot of people when they go on vacation, they'll put, oh, I'm leaving for, or I can't wait to go to Bahamas for 10, 15 days. What is that telling people who's looking at your site? That you won't be home and no one will probably be there. So it opens you up to burglaries or being victimized like that. Again, once your information is out there, it can't be taken back. So just be careful with social networks and blogs. Telephone, key. Anyone calling you wanting any personal information, I always say no. I'm a member of USAA, and I got a call several years ago wanting me to confirm my information that I have certain cars and I'm the driver of the car, my daughter, my son. Obviously, I didn't feel comfortable giving them that information. So I politely told them, look, I don't know who you are. This call is, out of the blue. What I'll do is call the main number that I know is to USAA, and then I will provide them that information if it's legitimate. And never, if they say, okay, well, here's a direct number or number, never take that number as gospel. because they could just give you a number directly back to them. What I did is I called directly, like I said, the USAA number, and then, but it was a legitimate call, but I just didn't feel comfortable giving them that information. This is what's called skimming. And if you see in the lower left is that's a skimmer. So basically skimming is taking the information from your credit card on the little magnetic strip on the back and duplicating another credit card with it. A skimmer can be just like in the gentleman's hand right there. It can be that small, or it can be an overlay at an ATM machine. So typically what happens is they'll put an overlay and it fits right over where you put your card in. Your card will work normally. You'll just put your card in, pull it out. But while it's doing a legitimate transaction, it's also recording your information illegitimately. If you've noticed recently, a lot of the number keypads with ATMs have a barrier around them, because what they would do is put a camera on top of the screen looking down. So as you put your card in, pull it out, it's recording the numbers. Now, what they don't have is your PIN number. So as you put your PIN number in, it's recording it. So once they have that, then they can recreate a new card and, charge or withdraw money because now they have the PIN number. Just be careful when you use ATM machines, gas stations, different things like that. And monitor whatever transactions you make just to make sure that they're all legitimate. Here's a video of skimming in in Florida, but it's a nationwide phenomenon.
When it comes to gas station credit card skimmers, it feels like at least once a week, we give you an alert about a new one found somewhere in Florida.
Yeah, at least once a week. And that's because the thieves looking to steal your information, they're getting smarter. As our Clifton French found out, some are even getting into the pumps now with their own keys.
Every time you pay at the pump, you're putting your trust into these machines and the folks who run them. Security stickers give some people peace of mind, but it turns out thieves are able to install the credit card stealing devices using their own keys.
And a lot of these skimmers are Wi-Fi now, so I don't even have to go back to collect them back.
Take these three, for example. Florida Highway Patrol arrested them with a skimmer and several fraudulent credit cards. Court documents show they also had 16 gas pump keys. Many older pumps have a universal key that opens them. Thieves are ordering those online. Some criminals take it a step further. There are reports, even in Hillsborough County, of crooks buying the keys straight from the gas station clerk.
These clerks make low wages, and sometimes, $400 or $500 for a set of keys, can be very tempting, and that's what's happening.
Doesn't it need to be opened up and checked first?
And as we showed you last year, you can't always trust those security stickers either. When we approached this clerk about broken seals, he pulled out a roll of new stickers and put them on the pumps without opening them, meaning a skimmer could be inside. That sticker is just giving customers a false sense of security. Experts say the best thing to do is pay with cash when you can, and always keep an eye on your credit card statement.
So you can actually buy a skimmer on Amazon, and here's an actual Amazon ad for a skimmer. So they're actually can be used for legitimate purposes, like access entry cards to buildings and different things like that. But you can see they're relatively cheap, and you can go on Amazon or any other website and purchase these. So you have the skimmer now. You need the blank credit cards, and also on Amazon you can get blank credit cards, a 10-pack for $99. So it's used for multi-purposes, but thieves like to use it to recreate a credit card. Free Wi-Fi and hotspot networks, you really have to be careful logging on to or accessing free Wi-Fi networks. A lot of times these will set up bogus websites or hotspots for you to attach to. Anything that you do on that site, they can record or they have access to. Here's a video of a gentleman that was on the wrong side of the law for a while and did this for a living, and now he has his own business and teaches citizens how to protect themselves.
Inside Terminal 5 at the Los Angeles International Airport, dozens of people are on their computers. Gregory Evans is a former hacker whose resume includes 2 years in federal prison.
We were doing almost $1 million, if not more, a week against some of the biggest corporations in the world.
We set up in a corner of the terminal so that Evans, who now owns a cybersecurity company, could show us just how vulnerable people are to hackers.
I will go and set up a fake Wi-Fi and watch everybody connect to it. And once they connect to it and they start surfing the internet, now what I'll do is just grab all their traffic.
We launched a fake network named LAX Free Wi-Fi. Within minutes, people started connecting to it. Evans then showed us how a hacker can record everything off a computer that joined our network by tracking what I was doing on my laptop.
So if they go to their bank, it'll grab all their banking information. If they go to their Facebook, it'll grab all that, their Twitter accounts. If they're writing love letters, I can grab all of that.
Or Evans says even worse, if a hacker has enough time, spyware can be installed, which stays with the victim.
You get on the plane, you go to one country, I go to another. But everything that you do, as long as you have that computer, is going to be emailed back to me.
During our experiment, we stumbled across what appeared to be a real hacker at work. Along with our fake network, there was another one called Free Public Wi-Fi. Airport administrators told us T-Mobile is the only authorized Wi-Fi provider.
So you think that there could be a hacker here right now?
That's correct.
Catching and prosecuting a hacker, especially at an airport, is extremely difficult. E.J. Hilbert is a retired FBI agent who specialized in cybercrime.
It's virtually impossible to catch them. Law enforcement's aware of this, and there's always the next piece. You steal the cards, you steal the information, you got to use them somewhere. And that's when you start getting the real investigations going.
Experts say there are a few things you can do to protect yourself. If you're at an airport or a public spot, find out who the Wi-Fi provider is and use that. If it costs some money, pay the money. They also say change your password every now and then and use different passwords for different accounts. Another tip, turn your computer off when you're not using it.
One thing I recommend is if you're using free Wi-Fi, do not go to any sites where you have to put your login credentials. If you want to, search CNN, Fox News, or just get general information, that's fine. But any site where you have to log in, put your password and login information, I would kind of stay away from. Another thing you can do is get a virtual private network. A lot of times you can get them through the phone service. I know T-Mobile has those available with your cell phone. Again, avoid connecting directly to Wi-Fi hotspots. Confirm the network name. So what happens is they'll, if you go to Starbucks and there's a hacker in there, Starbucks 1 may be the legitimate free Wi-Fi. So they'll create one that says Starbucks 2. And without you knowing, you may inadvertently connect with Wi-Fi 2. And again, you're compromised. Make sure your firewall is turned on, and minimize access sites that require logon and password information. So we're going to talk about medical ID theft now. You don't really hear much about it, but it's probably the most lucrative identity theft out there. And it's basically when someone uses your information to fraudulently obtain medical services and or equipment or medication. Stolen medical data is 20 to 50 times more valuable than other financial data. In 2021, it was 45 million individuals affected, and that was up from 34 million in 2020. So you see the numbers have been increasing. 20% experience misdiagnosis and mistreatment, unfortunately. And 65% of medical ID theft victims paid an average of $13,000 to resolve the crime. So the two biggest uses basically fraudulent billing. They get your information and just send a fraudulent bill to medical companies, medical providers, and we know how expensive medical coverage is. And they'll, victimize you that way. Also, medical services. There was a case where a young lady lost her ID. Someone that was drug addicted, was pregnant, used her ID to have the baby. The Child Protective Services got information that the baby was born drug addicted and contacted the victim, unfortunately, that had her information stolen. So she had to prove that she didn't have a baby. They had to do DNA tests and all that, and it was all based on a lost ID. So how do you know if your medical ID has been victimized? A lot of times you'll be told that you reached your maximum benefits. Say, you know, you only get a yearly physical right now, and then all of a sudden you go in for the flu or something like that, and you know, they say, well, you know, you've used up all your co-pays, different things like that. You'll get a bill for services that you didn't receive. Also, since the bills aren't paid, you may start receiving collection calls. And if you check your medical record, you may see, you know, unfamiliar notices on your credit report. So what do you do if you're a victim? First and foremost, obtain copies of your medical records and make sure everything's accurate in there. You can get a counting of disclosures report, and that's basically almost like a credit report for medical coverage, but you would have to go through whoever your medical provider is. And that would give a list of all the doctors you've seen, pretty much all the transactions, medications, different things like that. Make sure you ask for corrections to your medical records, because if unfortunately your blood type was changed, you have a medical emergency where you need a blood transfusion or something like that, they may give you the wrong blood. Make sure you keep records and document in good correspondence. Also, whoever made the mistake, they're required to fix it, and they're required to repair it. Again, make a police report. You can also report it to the Federal Trade Commission. This is another big one, tax ID theft. Typically what they'll do is get your information and file a fraudulent tax return. Once you file your return, you'll get a notice from the IRS stating that a tax return was already filed on your behalf. Typically what they'll do is file it between beginning of January to mid-February. And also they'll provide a checking account or prepaid debit card to have the funds put on. Once the return is processed, the money is, put into that account, and they have access to it. Also, your information is a lot of times sold on the dark web. So what do you do after false filing? Make a police report. There's specific forms that the IRS has. One is the ID theft affidavit 14039. So you fill that out and return it to the IRS. Also with the copy of the police report, they require that you make a police report. And with all these ID thefts, make sure you keep good correspondence records. That way, who you talk to, date and time, and basically what the conversation entailed. Child identity theft. This is another one that's growing. And thieves really like this because we've seen children as young as 6 months old compromised and not realize that their identity has been compromised until they're 18 years old. And basically what they do is take the child's information and open a credit file. The social security number is typically the top compromise identifier. A lot of times, unfortunately, victimization occurs close to home. So if you have a parent whose credit isn't the best and they need, to get services or credit card, a lot of times they'll open credit in their child's name. And it's a lot more difficult to detect because you really aren't expecting your 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old to have a credit file at that age. And they're targeted 35 more times more often than the average citizen. And here's a video of a victim that experienced child ID theft.
Imagine a 5th grader who is already bankrupt, or a 16-year-old in debt for houses and cars. Thieves have a new target, and we learned tonight that 1 in 10 American children is the victim of identity theft. 1 in 10. And as ABC's Pierre Thomas tells us, it can be years before parents realize it.
Olivia McNamara was starting her freshman year at Vanderbilt University, and like so many 18-year-olds, applying for her first credit card. That's when the nightmare started. Olivia's credit applications were rejected twice. Someone had stolen her identity when she was 9 years old. They had years to run up $1.5 million in debt.
I can't even describe it. It's just really shocking, and we just had no idea.
The thieves created more than 42 accounts, defaulting on all of them.
They took loans out on boats and houses and everything.
Olivia's still working to clear her credit. It may take her months, if not years, to start fresh. A new report estimates that a staggering 1 in 10 American children are victims with no clue it's happening. Criminals hack home computers looking for tax forms with the social security numbers of children. They've also stolen identities from hospitals, child welfare agencies, even schools.
We see children who have had this crime begin at as early as age, 5 months old, and then it goes on for years.
Thieves stole 11-year-old Brianna's social security number and ran up more than $132,000 in debt, buying a car and a house. Using 8-year-old Bradley's ID, crooks took out 2 student loans and got 5 credit cards. Total damage, $19,200.
The problem is large and growing. And part of the problem is it's generally undetected and undetectable.
Undetected because thieves use false names and addresses repeatedly, simply opening new accounts after they default.
So what can parents do to protect their children? The most important thing, tell your children never to give out their social security number without your permission, and make sure you check your child's credit periodically, no matter how young.
Pretty scary, pretty scary. As we go on, I'll tell you a specific way to also minimize them being victimized, some other options you may have. Online search engines, Google, Yahoo, any kind of search engine. If you put your information in, a lot of times your personal address or different things pop up about you. So anyone can go online and put a name in and get personal information about you. Also, data brokers and TransUnion, unfortunately, which is one of the credit rating agencies, is one of the biggest data brokers out there. Also, Spokio. So basically, a data broker collects personal information on an individual or company, compiles it, and basically sells it to whoever wants to purchase it. A lot of times, it's used for legitimate sales. Say, I'm in the elder abuse awareness field, so I can buy information related to my business where I want to market and target. Unfortunately, a scammer or someone who just wants information can do the same thing without any checks and balances. And they mostly get information from public records and different things like that. So how do they collect your information? One of the biggest ones, your web browsing history. Every time you're on the internet, you're leaving an electronic trail. And unfortunately, that information can be sold to data brokers. Public sources, again, birth certificates, marriage licenses, voter registration, motor vehicle records. I just purchased a car about 3 weeks ago, and I just started getting notices about extended warranties, basically saying, hey, you just purchased a vehicle, you should look into getting an extended warranty for it. But that's all public information. Credit card companies, a lot of times they sell your information, your personal purchase history, anything you use that credit card for. Think about this: if you go on, say, Google and look up something specific, eventually you'll start seeing ads on Facebook related to the different searches that you've used. It's all kind of interconnected. Free mobile apps also, same thing. They document all your information and they put it out there for sale. So we're going to talk about data breaches now. A data breach is typically an incident in which sensitive, protected, or confidential data has been viewed, stolen, or used by an individual unauthorized to do so. So some data breach facts. In 2021, it was about 1,800 data breaches. That's a lot. Over 150 million individuals' information was compromised. That's pretty much half of the US. Half of all data breaches globally to occur in the United States by 2023, in which we're at now. So pretty much half of everything is centralized in the US. Social security numbers were compromised 80% of the time. And typically took about 112 days for the whatever company was compromised to realize that they have been compromised. So that's a long time where the thieves have your information and that they can do a lot with it. This is kind of when, the citizens became aware of data breaches, and so typically started with Target, and they sent this letter out and they were compromised. The credit card and debit card system was compromised. Here's a couple that actually companies that were compromised. I don't know if you remember Colonial Pipeline. It was a ransomware attack. They actually had a VPN, but that number was compromised. They had one person had the VPN, and somehow suspects got it, compromised it, and held their website, their company system up. This actually caused fuel shortages for about 6 days in the US. This one was Shiny Hunter's information was compromised from 10 companies. The interesting thing with this is they leaked the information and they were giving it away for free. They weren't even charging. And 124 million records were exposed. Names, payment methods, physical billing addresses, email addresses, dates of birth. This is the one that I have T-Mobile, and I got a notice that my information was compromised. In this case, it was 40 million records compromised. Pretty much everything you give them to start an account with T-Mobile. So what happens to your information after it's compromised? A lot of times it's sold on the dark web. So when you look at how the internet's constructed, we typically have the surface web. That's where we typically do search engines, Yahoo, Google, or any place that you don't have to use a password to kind of access. The deep web is, medical records, financial records, pretty much what you have to use a password to get to. And the dark web is typically for drug trafficking and basically illegal activities. It's a collection of thousands of websites that use anonymity tools like Tor and ITP to hide IP addresses. So simply, it's a large database, and they continuously use different IP addresses. So they're very, very hard to track. What's sold on the web, you name it. Whatever you can think of buying, you can get: guns, drugs, hitmen, anything. How much is your information worth? So typically a stolen debit credit card's about $5 to $110. And this is very fluid depending on the market. Higher average or prestige credit cards could go upwards of $400 if there's a high balance on them. US passports, which is scary, $1,000 to $2,000. Online payment service credentials, couple $100. A complete US ID package, $30, which I was kind of shocked at this. I thought it would be a little more. So I guess we're kind of worth $30 on the black market or dark web. Personal medical, remember I was telling you that it's very lucrative, $1 to $1,000 per record. And a lot of these are sold in bulk if it's a large compromise. These are actually two ads that were on the dark web. One on the left, welcome to fake documents. The unique producer quality fake documents. ID card stamps, other products for following countries: Australia, Belgium, Germany, US. To the right again, all US fake driver's licenses. This is where a lot of kids that are under 21 will go to get ID cards so they can get into bars. This one on the left is a clinical psychiatric patient records business was compromised. So if you went in for counseling or treatment, they had all that information from name, address, phone number, social security number, complete history, complete detailed notes on everything discussed in therapy sessions. That could also be used for blackmail. If you have a CEO and somehow, they were getting psychiatric counseling, and then if this information falls into the wrong hands, they could be blackmailed. To the right, again, child ID theft, basically from a pediatrician. They hacked into their site and got all their information. The date on the file is name of patient, date of birth, social security number, address, phone, father's name, and mother's name. So this stuff is out there. This is tax ID theft information that was compromised. 2017 tax W-2 forms with adjusted gross income and date of birth. So now they have your previous year's tax returns. So again, they can file an early fraudulent tax return. So how do you discover ID theft? A lot of times you'll receive calls from collection agencies because you haven't paid the bills. Contact from your bank. A lot, like in my case, when my card was compromised, I got an email and a call from the bank. If you check your credit report, new accounts or changes on existing accounts that you didn't initiate. Denied a loan. Say you know you've never defaulted on a loan or missed a payment, and last thing you know, you knew your credit score was 780, 800. Now you go in to buy a car and they want to charge you 17 or 18% interest based on your credit score. Once you research it, you realize that someone has opened up accounts, haven't paid for them. Again, arrested for a criminal offense you didn't commit. And then incorrect information on your credit report. So what do you do if it's stolen? The key is act immediately. Don't put it off. You need to, try to find out where your information was compromised. And also make a report to police. Again, I can't, stress that enough. That is key. Make, even if it's a one-page report, but at least it's documented. Contact all the creditors and accounts that may have been tampered with or opened fraudulently, and notify the 3 credit bureaus and request an alert be placed on your credit report. And again, keep detailed records. And you can also file a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission. Just remember, it's not always random. Anywhere your personal information is stored, hospitals, schools, someone coming into your house that a relative that may have substance abuse issues and all of a sudden sees your debit or credit card, decides to take it and use it. So it can be anyone really. The best thing to do is know your credit. Each person is entitled to a free credit report with each major bureau each year. So to get a copy, you can go on www.annualcreditreport.com. What I suggested that you get the report staggered. So it's 3 credit bureaus, you could get one every 3 months. So that way you have it's not all at one time. This is probably the biggest and best thing that you can do is freeze your credit file. Freeze your credit file. So what is that? So freezing your credit file restricts access to your credit information, which means you and others won't be able to open a new credit account in your name or their name while your account is frozen. So basically what happens is you contact the 3 credit bureaus and request, and there's forms that you fill out, request that there's a credit freeze. So and it's free, by the way. Once the credit freeze is put on your social security number, anyone trying to access any new credit will be blocked, even you. So say you want to go buy a car and you're going to get it financed, and you go to the dealership and they say, okay, we have this great promotion at 2%, blah, blah, blah. You want to get it financed through them, but they have to, check your credit score. You will have a unique PIN number that you contact the credit agency, which they're using, say if it's Equifax, you contact them and they will lift the credit freeze while the legitimate company actually accesses your credit file. Once they check it, you can put the credit freeze back on. It's a little bit inconvenient, but it's great because it stops anyone from opening any new credit. And if you're not opening a lot of credit, it's great to have, and you can just leave it on. Another great thing about this program is you can have your child's credit profile frozen. So the minute they're born and you get their social security number, you can actually have their credit file frozen. So it's great. It's really great. Like nothing's 100%. It minimizes the chance of you being victimized, but this is a great thing for new credit companies. So I always say it's not if, but when you're compromised. A lot of times your information is compromised, but may never be used. Again, I do this sort of for a living, and my information was compromised. So thank you, and I hope you guys got something out of this, and I'll be willing to take some questions now.
All right, Andre, this was great. And let's see what we got here. Okay, so first, Joan Green asks, people often ask me for advice about managing passwords. I've often suggested LastPass, but that too was hacked. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, it's funny. I found out about that also. It's really hard, and there's no 100 foolproof way to manage that other than, a few apps, but they may get compromised. The key to it for me is I keep most of my passwords in a safe that's locked, and I try to change them every so often. That's really a hard one because we have so many passwords. I probably have 30 different passwords and logon credentials I have to use for different sites. I think probably, again, the best way is probably these apps, but it's not 100%.
Okay, great. Wow, Michael shares that everyone in our household had their identities stolen at one point or time. And let's see. Okay, at one point in your presentation, you were talking about something, and Gary asks, does the same apply for cell phones as well? And I'm not sure what you were talking about there.
Probably the tracking of information.
Yeah. So how does that
Yeah, pretty much, Googling this or anything you do, most of it's tracked, unfortunately. You can opt out of these information or the data brokers. From my understanding, it's like pulling teeth because it's a lot of them out there, and you would have to contact each individual one to opt out. And I haven't come across anyone that's actually done it yet. But unfortunately, when you download an app on your phone and all that small print that you agree to in there, a lot of it says they can share information. That's like when you go on a new website and they have cookies. That's essentially what that is. It allows them to share your information, unfortunately.
Oh, and this is a really good one that I actually hear this a lot. Faith asks, in general, is it better to use cash than credit when you can? Also, are credit cards safer? Are credit cards safer? Oh, maybe debit cards safer than credit cards?
So I try to use cash as much as I can, specifically at gas stations. And I actually have a video that's not in here, but it's actually in a gas inside where they walk up, distract the clerk, and put an overlay right on the debit credit card machine where you swipe. So they can do it inside. And at the gas pumps, actually, it's all Wi-Fi now. So once they get in, they don't have to go back and collect their information. They can be one block away, and everybody that's using that gas pump, their information being relayed to a computer. So it's really tough. What was the second part of the question?
Oh, debit cards, or is there a difference between debit cards and credit cards?
Credit cards, it's a lot easier if it's compromised to rectify it. I know a lot of people like me, most purchases, I'll just use a credit card. It just has different protections more than your typical debit card. So yeah, I tend to use credit cards for most purchases.
Okay, great. Let's see. Do not click on your, Kitschy says, do not click on the link in your email. Go directly to the website to log in. I wanted to throw in a tip that I learned recently is if you are going to click on something, you can right click on it and see the address that you're clicking on before you click on it. And it's very important to read that address because like a lot of times these hackers, they'll misspell one letter on Amazon, you know, and you think you're going to an Amazon account.
Exactly. And that's the key. And like I said, when I was talking about the phishing emails, that's number one key is the where it's coming from, because they'll mimic it, like you said, down to one letter. And the good thing is I guess they really don't have spell check in a lot of these countries. So as you're reading through them, you'll see misspelled words or wrong punctuation and all, you know, different things like that. But like I said, the key is not putting any of your logon credentials in there.
This is Margie Hessel-Arnold asks, a banker suggested I take a photo of my social security card and put it in my iPhone. What do you think of this?
I've seen people do that. And actually, you know, your iPhone's pretty secure. I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I don't know why you would need a photo of it. You know what I mean?
Let's see. And Faith had another question. How safe is online banking, like auto payments, bill paying, or is it better to use checks?
Now pretty much everything, and I know I do it, most of my payments are set up automatically. It's just you have to realize that, you know, one of these companies may be compromised. So it's that, you know, like I said, nothing's 100%, but we've pretty much gone to a digital, you know, digital transactions now pretty much for probably 80-90% of what we do. And I know, you know, older persons tend to like to write that check out. There's still nothing wrong with that. But again, if you're doing that, make sure you deposit it in the actual mailbox, or if you go to a post office inside, not even outside where you know, you can drive up and, you know, deposit a letter, because they have ways to get in there, and they've, you know, stolen letters from there also. So but you know, we're just in a digital age now where our information's out there. There's nothing 100% we can do. We can just try to minimize.
Great. Let's see. Joe asks, how can we stop or reduce this number of scam or spam phone calls?
So I get this question a lot. So there's a do not call list. You know, legitimate companies use that, but scammers don't. And what they do is I get I'm with T-Mobile, so a lot of calls I get will pop up scams on your phone. So I don't even answer them. It's nothing that you can do to totally get rid of them. What I do typically is, if I don't recognize a number, I don't answer it. Now on my business line, my cell phone, I pretty much answer everything because it's, you know, it's probably business related. But again, probably 20% of calls I get are scam calls, and I just, you know, it's more of annoyance than anything. But it's nothing really 100% that you can do to stop these calls.
Okay. Joan, who's always a great, Joan Green is always a great suggester of technology, says lately she's been using her Apple Watch to pay. It's great to just double click the button on my watch, then tap the advice accepting credit cards. When traveling, it was handy because I didn't have to open my purse and could minimize what's being carried with me. And I guess, Andre, you're a fan overall of the Apple products and their security.
Yes, yes, and that's what I use. And knock on wood, I haven't had any issues or anything.
And let's see, in chat, Meryl, you want to tell your story about your client that sent you their social security number?
He was a new client. And I was setting up the detailed information in his QuickBooks file that I was keeping. And I needed his social security number quickly. So I told him to text it to me, which is fairly safe. And he didn't. And he's a software developer on top of that. And the next week, unfortunately, my computer was hacked. And he wound up with a mortgage set up in Kentucky, and he lives in Waldorf.
Wow.
Yeah. So, the daily money managers do know a few things about being safe with money. Not everything, but Andre,
Yep.
you've been very complete in everything you've said today.
Thanks.
I'm
Now,
always impressed.
Now that you mentioned that, one thing that would have helped him is if he had the credit freeze, because they wouldn't have been able to open any other accounts.
Yeah.
And that's why I really push that and emphasize. And unfortunately, the government really, I would say during these presentations, probably 20% of my audience has no idea or knows about credit freezes. The rest, 80%, has no idea.
Let's see. Louise asks, what's safer, mailing checks inside a post office or online banking? And 2, are identity theft protection plans safe and worth the money? Yeah, I tell you, I think every time I turn the radio on, I hear some kind of identity theft protection program.
Yeah, so you can actually, it's not bad. It's just another layer of protection. I think, like I said, the key, once you have the credit freeze, will minimize a lot of that. But again, you can set it up for, if certain purchases are made over a certain amount, you get notified. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with it. So I'm definitely not opposed to it. It's another level. It just basically boils down to how much you really want to pay and how much do you think, it'll be worth to you. Again, it's pretty safe to pay your online bills. But again, if you decide to go in the post office, there's, you could have a person that works in the post office, like I know of, that was opening letters and getting checks. And, if you had your banks or your credit card statement with the account number on there, along with your check, now they have a lot of your information. So nothing's 100%. I know for me, I very rarely now mail payments. Is pretty much done online.
And how my identity was compromised was when we applied for a mortgage. And and this was back in the day where everything was very little was done digital. But what my thought was is that there's these low-paid employees that are in this office with all of this data, and they throw it on the copier machine, and they got everything, your social security, what have you. And we kind of tracked it back to that. And that sort of goes to the post office employee. As we know, a big challenge are the home care providers sometimes that are in our homes who are not making a decent wage, and there they've got the checkbook and the credit card and things like that.
Exactly. We had a case in one of our local restaurants here in Maryland where Unfortunately, it's still prevalent where, you pay for your meal, the waiter or waitress comes, you give them your credit card, they take it. And then they come back a few minutes later, give it back. So this waiter was taking it, had a skimmer. So whatever credit card he got for the day, he was running through the skimmer, get the information, then run it normally for you and, bring it back. And he probably compromised several hundred patrons until we figured out what was going on. And luckily, a lot of them reported it. Hey, my credit card was, this is the last place that I remember using it. And it all lined up at this one particular restaurant. But as you see, skimmers are very cheap to purchase, and the cards also.
All right, I know we've got tons of comments and questions that I want to keep on reading. Just remind everybody this is recorded, but let's try to get through some of these. You okay hanging on there, Andre?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Here, I'm going to go to the end of the list and kind of work my way up to where I was. But Ray has a really good one. She says, my credit card keeps getting hacked. I tell the bank and I change my credit card number, but then it happens again. Is there anything that I can do?
It's kind of odd that it keeps happening. Could it be internal, or there's spyware on the computer or something like that?
Yeah, that very good point is that it might not be your credit card. It might be, think about where you're doing transactions with the credit card. It might be something else that's compromised. Also, Joe put a note in there that I know this because I have 2 kids, and I think my wife has it set up this way, is that you can be notified for every purchase on your credit card. So that's also a nice protection that can be set up.
Yes.
Let's see, Madhu asks, how do we go about doing a credit freeze?
So you would contact the 3 credit bureaus, and once you go in there, they'll walk you right through it. It's just simple process forms you fill out. I know in Maryland it's free. Some states they may charge $5, but I know in Maryland it's free.
Okay. And here's one that I know that families with young kids and grandkids are curious about. Kitschy says, would you say that Venmo is better than credit cards? My son uses Venmo. He rarely uses cash. And, I have one big complaint about Venmo. If you've got friends that use that, it shows people what you're buying. Like there's this feed that shows that they're sending money and what is it for?
Digital tracking.
Yeah.
And marketing again. Yeah, I'm not, I know a few use Venmo. I'm just not doing that now, or any of the other money transferring websites or apps. I did have a friend that was compromised, and he got a call, and basically they tricked to giving his password, and it was elaborate schemes, kind of long to get into, but it's people that's been hacked with that and have their information compromised.
Let's see, Elizabeth asks, and I've never used one of these, how safe are the security keys and using your fingerprint to enter your online banking site or other websites?
Yeah, that's really secure. I know I do it actually for my MacBook. I use my fingerprint. They also, some have facial recognition. I mean, that's pretty safe. I use that quite a bit.
I'm always nervous about this is when you I forgot what they call it, but it's a direct deposit or a direct payment from your checking account where you provide your bank routing and account information. But let's say you're a landlord and your tenant is sending you money for, what is it, DHC, or what do they call that?
Yeah, for the direct payments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rebecca was wondering about how safe that is.
It's pretty safe, but flip side is once they have that information, just like doing wire transfers. It's simple. You got to give them your routing number and your account number for any transactions that you're doing wiring for, or if they want to wire you money. The key is you have to scrutinize every transaction on your bank statement, whether it's every day, every other day. If you see a transaction of $1, a lot of times they've created a card and they want to test it to see if it works. And they'll, $1, $2, something like that. That should, pique your curiosity. Typically, especially if I haven't bought anything for $1 or $2. But the key is just monitor. And again, you can set up accounts where every transaction that's made with that card or whatever, you get notified of. Now it's a hassle if you got a lot of different transactions going on and your phone's, constantly alerting you. But if you really want to monitor that is a good way.
Okay. Here's a great question from Judy Tiger. Why can't law enforcement shut down the dark web?
Like I said, it's basically made up of all these different IP addresses. So it's like a dog chasing its tail, unfortunately. They've shut down a few sites and they just pop up where. And it's so many out there. It's so many out there that they legitimately can't do it. Unfortunately. And I've actually been on there and some training sessions that I've had. You would not believe what you can purchase on the dark web. I mean, from, you name it, the worst child pornography to anything, but it's really, really difficult because of the way the internet is set up, unfortunately.
All right, man. I feel like we covered almost every topic that has been asked. There was one person that was asking about this presentation, if you could share it. And before the discussion, Andre said he was going to send me a PDF that I could post along with the presentation. So send that over and we'll add it to the page with the recording.
Definitely. The only thing it won't have is the videos, obviously, because the file would be too large. But YouTube is great if you want more information on different scams and stuff like that. You can go on there, and there's a lot of great videos, and because I'm a visual person, I like to see, and when I show you in a restaurant how easy it is for someone to basically pickpocket you. It's better than me just, kind of telling you about it when you see it, or in the grocery store. It's funny, every time I go to grocery store, I see how many purses that legitimately could be compromised. And you see it, hate to pick on ladies, but they sort of put that purse where the baby would typically sit. And a lot of times it's wide open, or it's there, or you may have people in teams trying to distract you and talking to you and have you look a certain way, and person working with them will, take the wallet out of your purse.
It's horrible. And then is there like a difference between using Zelle or Venmo? Is there a tangible difference? Or are they both sort of in the same boat?
I'm not really up on them. I'm guessing they're probably in the same boat, just a spin on, one other. I'll research that and try to get an answer, but I'm not really up on that right now. So I don't want to give you any bad information.
Okay, great. And then, this is somebody said, where was it? I saw a great tip about purses. Somebody said they put a little clip on their purse, or like a lock on their purse. That's a great suggestion there.
Or keep it closed.
Yeah. All right.
Zippered, or you know, and a lot really don't set it down on the floor when you're eating or something like, just put it right next to you.
Okay, great. That was Merrill with that tip. So, and with that, Joe and Merrill, any closing thoughts on our discussion today?
Only that this has been a fantastic, comprehensive, and thought-provoking presentation. Andre, thank you so much for helping us understand a little bit better how vulnerable we are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I hate to scare
I
people
think
to death.
I think just hearing this over and over again just reinforces the thoughts of what one must do to protect themselves. And it's never going to end.
No.
It is never going to end.
Always be vigilant.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is that military expression? Situational awareness?
Exactly.
Yes.
Great. All right, folks. Well, this was fantastic. Have a great rest of the week and great rest of the day. Great way to wake up, and great information that we can share with the people that we're working with. And thanks so much, Andre. And I'll make sure to get this posted online and send it to Merrill and Joe ASAP.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Steve, for
And
hosting.
if you need me for any other presentations, feel free. I love to. My main focus now is get education, and if I can get one person protected, it was all worth it.
I love it. What a great chapter to your career.
Thank you.
Okay. You have another topic that you talk about quite a bit. What is the name of that?
That's financial exploitation, frauds and scams that target seniors.
Yes.
I'm also working on one that actually may be of interest to you guys. It's power of attorney. And that focuses on understanding what a power of attorney is. And, dealing with a lot of seniors, they know what it is, but they don't really understand the meat of it, the nuts and bolts, and the power that you give another person over, with your finances or making decisions on your behalf. When I was a police officer, we would get these cases in quite a bit. And unfortunately, the state's attorney wouldn't take them. They would say, well, this is sort of a civil matter and all. So I'm working on that. That will be done probably in the next couple weeks. So I'll be posting that on my website as part of the trainings that I offer. So if you'd like me to come back and do that. And the preface before I even get into the power of attorney is organizing your life and knowing where all your assets are, pretty much everything. Because what happens, and I'm sure, Merrill, you see it, if a person passes away or there's something traumatic, then the family member's trying to figure out bank accounts, this, that, assets, what's going on, and they're kind of like lost. And so it can be very frustrating. So the first part is getting organized. Once you get organized, then look at the power of attorney, and then whoever you designate as your agent knows typically where everything is. So it saves them a lot of heartache and headache.
Great.
Great suggestions. All right, folks, we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andre, and
All
nice
right.
to see you again.
Nice seeing you. You take care.